I turned 37 the night I found out my wife never really came home. Funny how birthdays make you soft. Nostalgic. You pour a drink for the past and pretend it won't bite you back. But the past doesn't care about cake or candles. It shows up when it wants, usually when you're too tired to fight it off. I was standing in our kitchen, still wearing the stupid party hat my little sister insisted on jamming on my head. The house smelled like burnt frosting and cheap champagne, the kind friends bring when they think you have everything. Laura, my wife, was in the living room, laughing too hard at some joke my best friend Chris told. The way she tilted her head back, pressed her hand to his chest like he was the funniest man alive. I'd seen her do that 100 times, 1,000, and I told myself every time, that's just Laura. Warm, touchy, loyal. God. The guests trickled out around midnight. Leftover plates on the counter. Empty wine glasses littering the coffee table. Laura was tipsy. She always got tipsy. I used to find it cute. Her giggle. Her clingy hands when she'd lean into my side and tell me I was her everything. She'd kiss me goodnight around 1 a.m., the lipstick stain on my neck still there when I went to wash my face. She'd fallen asleep on the couch, one arm draped over her phone like it was some precious thing she didn't want me to see. Maybe I wouldn't have looked if it hadn't buzzed. Just once. Soft little trader's buzz. A name I didn't know. A message that made my gut turn to ice. I can't believe you're still there. Happy birthday to him, I guess. A winky face. Like I was a joke. Like my whole life was the joke. I stood there in the dark kitchen, staring at that text. The rest of the house silent, except for the hum of the fridge and Laura's soft snore from the couch. I could have put the phone down. Could have told myself it was nothing. A friend, a stupid prank, a misread line. But you don't survive almost 4 decades on this earth by pretending the knife pressed to your ribs isn't real. So I scrolled, one thumb swipe at a time. 5 years of late nights, of work trips, of just grabbing drinks with the girls. 5 years. My entire marriage, basically. My forever, tucked in text bubbles with hotel addresses and I love yous that weren't meant for me. I looked at her through the kitchen doorway. My wife of 7 years, drooling into a throw pillow like she hadn't just carved out my insides and served them with a birthday cake. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, my life snapped in two. I don't remember how long I stood there with her phone in my hand. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. The party hat was still on my head, like some cruel crown for the biggest fool in the house. Messages blurred under my thumb. Words I never heard her say to me. Not like that. Cheap motel addresses. Late night, I need you now confessions that read like poems for someone else's skin. Photos. Some so raw I had to look away, like a kid walking in on his parents and realizing the world wasn't as safe as he thought. 5 years. 50 birthdays, anniversaries, New Year's kisses. All with her eyes on someone else when mine were always on her. I set the phone down on the counter, careful, gentle, like if I dropped it, the truth might scatter across the tile and I'd have to pick up every shard on my hands and knees. I could hear her breathing from the living room, a soft, rhythmic sound that used to soothe me to sleep when I couldn't quiet my head. Now it felt like mockery. I wanted to shake her awake, to scream, to flip the table, drag her into the kitchen light, and make her explain it all. But my tongue felt glued to my teeth, my chest hollow, my hands heavy at my sides. So I poured a glass of water instead. Sat at the kitchen table in the half-dark, the balloons from my birthday still bobbing behind me like ghosts at a wake. I pictured it. The nights she came home late, smelling like someone else's cologne and cheap hotel soap. The time she'd slip into bed and whisper, "I love you, baby," into my neck, her hair still damp from a shower that washed away him, but not the lie. I thought about Chris, my best friend since high school. How he'd toasted me tonight, clapped me on the back, told me, "You're a good man, Mark. Laura's lucky." And she'd laugh beside him like they both knew better. I needed air. I needed out of that kitchen before the walls collapsed and buried me with the stale cake and cheap champagne. So I stood, pushed open the back door, stepped barefoot onto the cold deck. The night hit me full in the face, damp, honest, brutal in its silence. Inside, she kept snoring. The phone screen lit up again on the counter. Another text. Happy birthday to him. Come home soon. Home. The word felt poison now. I leaned against the railing of the deck, bare feet pressed to the cold wood, breath turning to steam under the security light. Out here, the truth felt bigger, Too big to cram back into a phone screen or bury under a pillow next to her soft, sleepy lie of a body. I looked up at the sky. A few stars broke through the haze, distant pinpricks, same as they'd always been. Somewhere out there were a million people who'd never heard my name. Never care that tonight, I turned 37 and found out my wife had given 5 years of my life to someone who wasn't me. Funny how small that makes you feel. Small, but awake in a way I hadn't felt in years. I wonder if I'd missed the signs because I wanted to. If deep down I'd seen the lipstick smudges on her collar that weren't mine, the sudden trips to visit her sister, the way her phone never left her palm after 10 p.m. Maybe I'd looked right at the knife and told myself it was just a shadow. I clenched the deck rail until the wood bit into my palms. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to go inside, shake her awake, demand the truth in the same quiet voice she'd used to poison me all these years. But all I did was stand there, my pulse thudding in my neck like a drum that couldn't decide if it wanted to fight or flee. Inside, the living room light flickered, a timer she always set when she was gone overnight, to make it look like we were home, to make me feel safe when she wasn't coming back until dawn. I wondered how many times she'd slipped that light on for me. A trick, a stage prop, an apology I didn't know I was accepting. My mind flashed back to the birthday dinner 2 years ago. Same cake, same laugh. She'd slipped away to take a call, said it was work, came back with her lips fresh with mint and her eyes softer than silk. I swallowed the taste-a-bile in my throat. It burned worse than the cold. Inside, her phone lit up again on the kitchen counter. A name I didn't recognize, but a message that made my fists curl tight. "You there? I miss you." I let out a laugh. One short bark that startled the night birds from the fence. "Miss you?" Yeah, he missed what I paid for. The home, the dinners, the birthday she pretended to throw for me while giving him my nights. I pushed off the railing. I knew what I had to do. Not tomorrow. Not after one more sleepless night, pretending her lies could be ironed out in daylight. Tonight. Right now. I stepped back inside, the warmth of the house hitting me like a slap. It smelled like birthday candles, stale beer, her perfume. Sweet, right under the surface. She hadn't moved. Laura was still curled on the couch under a cheap throw blanket, mouth parted slightly, one hand clutching that cursed phone like a lifeline. I stood there for a second, just watching her. The woman I'd married 7 years ago, bright-eyed, magnetic, the kind of woman people orbit without meaning to. I'd fallen hard. I'd stayed there, orbiting, while she spun further and further away, and I kept pretending the gravity was enough to hold her. I crouched down, close enough to see the little lines at the corners of her eyes, the smear of mascara under her lashes. She looked young like this, soft, a version of her I didn't trust anymore. Laura. My voice cracked like old paint. She didn't stir. I said her name again, louder this time. Her eyelids fluttered. She groaned, tried to burrow deeper into the couch. I reached out and took the phone from her hand, gently, like easing a thorn from skin. I didn't need to scroll anymore. I knew enough. I just wanted her to see it too. "Laura," I said again, closer now, right by her ear. "Wake up." Her eyes opened slow, unfocused, pupils swimming in leftover champagne and sleep. For a second she smiled, that easy, sleepy grin that used to knock the breath out of me. "Hey, birthday boy," she murmured. Her voice, soft as silk, poison sweet. I held up the phone. Her smile faltered, then died. Just like that. No excuses yet. Just the flicker of fear behind her lashes. "Who is he?" I asked. No heat in it. No shout. Just a question I deserve an answer to. She sat up, blanket pooling at her waist, shoulders bare under the thin straps of her dress. She reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. "Mark, I can explain." "Don't." I cut in. My voice surprised me. Calm, but shaking underneath. "Don't lie again. Not tonight. Not after this." She looked at me then. Really looked. Like maybe for the first time she saw I wasn't her fool anymore. Her eyes filled up quick, that practiced shimmer of tears she knew how to conjure when she wanted to be forgiven. "Baby, please," she started. But the words caught in her throat when I turned the screen toward her, thumb tapping through the messages, the hotel receipts, the snapshots of her in beds that weren't ours. 5 years. Right there in cold digital ink. Her lies stacked like tombstones on my birthday cake. "I want the truth," I said. My hand was shaking. My voice wasn't. All of it. Now. She opened her mouth, closed it again, and for the first time in 5 years, I saw her, the real her, cornered and small in the soft glow of our living room. She pulled her knees up to her chest like a kid caught sneaking out past curfew. But this wasn't a teenage mistake. This was 5 years of practiced betrayal, sealed with birthday candles and a lie of a kiss. "Mark, please." Her voice cracked. She reached for my hand. I let her touch the back of it, but I didn't turn it over. Didn't let her fingers slip into mine the way they always did when she wanted to wrap me around her little lies. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. The oldest line in the book. The line every guilty heart learns by heart. 5 years, Laura. I almost laughed. It stuck in my throat like a bone. "You didn't mean for 5 years to happen." She flinched at that. Good. Let the truth sting her for once. It was supposed to be one night. And then I don't know, Mark, we drifted. Her eyes searched mine like there was a right answer hidden somewhere behind my skull. Like if she found it, this would all vanish into the stale air between us. "Who is he?" I asked again. The words came out flat, cold. She shook her head, like she could shake him loose from the truth if she just refused to say his name. "Laura." I leaned in, close enough to see the way her breath caught in her throat. "Who?" She swallowed, looked down at her hands, picked at the edge of her thumbnail like a kid stalling for time. "Someone from work," she said finally. "You don't know him." I almost laughed again, a bitter bark that scraped my ribs. 5 years, Laura. I know him now. I know every cheap motel you called a work trip. Every night you came home smelling like him and lied to my face. She started to cry then, soft little gasps like a confession wrapped in pity. I wondered if those tears ever fell for me, or just for the mess she'd made of her double life. "I love you, Mark. I do. I swear I do." "Stop." The word came out so sharp it made her flinch. "Don't say that. Not now. Not tonight." She reached for me again. I stepped back. The distance tasted like something close to freedom, sharp and cold and almost clean. Behind her, the TV flickered on mute, the last frame of some rom-com we'd fallen asleep to 1,000 times. Happy endings that felt like a cruel joke now. I looked at her, the woman I'd called home for 7 years, and wondered how long it would take to scrape her out of my walls, my bed, my bones. She sat there with her knees hugged to her chest, rocking just slightly like she could sway herself back to the beginning. Back to some moment where the truth hadn't ripped through the middle of us like a blade. "Mark," she said, softer now. "It was never about you. It was me. I was lonely." I barked out a laugh, so bitter it burned my throat. Lonely. That word hit harder than any punch could have. Lonely. I echoed. "You were lonely in the house I paid for, the bed I warmed, the life I built around you." She flinched but didn't stop. They never stop once they start. The cheaters, the liars. They talk like maybe if they pour enough words into the wound they made, they'll drown your rage before it can drown them. "I don't know how to explain it," she said. He listened. He made me feel seen. I turned away from her then, because if I didn't, I might have screamed, or laughed, or both. Seen. Like I hadn't seen her every damn day for 7 years. Like I hadn't carried every version of her in my chest since the day she first kissed me at that terrible dive bar and told me she'd never felt this safe before. Outside, dawn was trying to creep through the blinds. I hated that the sun had the nerve to rise while my life was burning down. I could feel her behind me, small, pitiful, the victim in her own head. I wanted to ask if she ever thought about my loneliness. The nights I sat up waiting for her to come home, pretending the cold side of the bed was temporary. But I didn't. Some questions don't need answers when you already know the truth. When I turned back, she was wiping at her face with the sleeve of the party sweater she'd bought just for tonight. A joke gift she'd wrapped in a bow. Birthday boy printed in tacky letters across my chest. "Mark, please," she whispered. "We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can." I raised my hand, and she went silent. My fingers were trembling. I curled them into a fist so she wouldn't see. "Do you love him?" I asked. 3 words that weighed more than anything she'd ever given me. She didn't answer right away. Her silence was louder than any yes. And in that silence, I felt something inside me shift. A door slamming shut, a lock clicking into place. It was over. No matter what she said next, it was over. She sat there staring at me like maybe if she held her breath long enough, I'd crack. I'd say okay. Therapy. Second chances. A fresh coat of paint over a house with termites in the walls. But I didn't. I just stood there, feeling the weight of my own heartbeat, steady and brutal against my ribs. Do you love him? I asked again, slower this time, like maybe the words would come out gentler if I dragged them through my teeth. Laura looked down at her hands. Her wedding ring, the one I slipped on her finger under an oak tree 7 years ago, glinted under the dull kitchen light. A tiny circle of gold that suddenly looked like a joke. I don't know, she said. The honesty in that nearly gutted me more than if she'd screamed yes. 5 years. 5 years of secret hotel rooms and whispered I miss yous. And she didn't know. The taste in my mouth went sour. I turned away before she could see my face twist. I was going to tell you, she said quickly, the words tumbling over each other. I was. So many times. But you're such a good man, Mark. I didn't want to hurt you. I let out a low, tired laugh. It scraped at my throat. Didn't want to hurt me? Laura, you've been hurting me for half a decade. You just didn't want to watch it happen. She started to cry again, soft, shuddery sobs that used to break my heart. Now, they felt like static in the background of a conversation I'd already decided how to end. I walked over to the kitchen counter, picked up her phone again, scrolled to the newest text. Read out loud. I miss you. Come home soon. The words tasted rotten. Does he know? I asked. Does he know you're here right now, with me? Does he know about the cake? The candles? The way you kissed me tonight like none of this was rotting under the surface. She didn't answer. Didn't have to. The silence did the work for her. I set the phone down, gentle, careful, the way you'd lay a body at a funeral. When I looked at her, all I saw was a stranger. A stranger in my house. A stranger wearing the face of my wife. Mark, she whispered. Please, don't do this. We can fix it. I almost asked how. But what's the point? You can't stitch new skin over a wound that deep. It'll never heal right. It'll always tear open again. I pushed my hands into my pockets to stop them from shaking. No, Laura, I said, voice low but steady now. You broke it, and you don't get to fix it this time. She looked so small sitting there, her hair a mess, eyes rimmed red, mascara smudged like bruises she'd given herself. Once upon a time, I would have gone to her then, knelt down, wrapped her in my arms, told her we'd get through it, that love could fix anything if you just held on tight enough. But standing there in my own kitchen, birthday balloons sagging behind me, I realized love can't fix what doesn't want to be whole. She reached for me again, fingertips trembling, a soft, desperate pleas on her lips. Don't leave me, Mark, she whispered. Don't throw us away. I'll stop. I'll tell him it's over. I swear. Just please. I closed my eyes for a moment. Let her voice wash over me like a memory that didn't belong to me anymore. I pictured her 5 years ago, laughing at my dumb jokes, wearing my old college hoodie, feet tucked under my thigh on the couch. That version of us was gone. Maybe it had never really been there at all. When I opened my eyes, I looked past her, past the couch, the TV, the wedding photo still hanging crooked by the stairs. Us on the beach, barefoot, grinning at a future we thought we could build out of promises alone. I took off my ring. It slipped from my finger easier than I expected. No fight, no drag. Just a soft click as I set it on the counter beside her phone. The sound of an ending that was always waiting to happen. Her breath caught. She looked at the ring like it might leap back onto my hand if she begged hard enough. Mark, she choked out. Please. I love you. I love us. I almost laughed. Us. The word felt so small now. Too small to hold everything we'd broken. I stepped back. The room felt bigger instantly. The walls not so tight, the air not so stale. My heart beat steady for the first time all night. I'm done, Laura, I said, my voice flat but clear. 5 years. 5 years you lied to my face and laid in my bed. You don't get to call it love now. She shook her head, a helpless, desperate motion that made her look like a child caught in a lie too big to swallow. I'm sorry, she sobbed. Please, Mark. Please, don't do this on your birthday. Not tonight. I almost wanted to say don't worry. You ruined more than a birthday. But the anger felt empty now. Pointless. So I just turned and walked past her, up the stairs to our bedroom. My bedroom, I realized, to pack a bag. I took the stairs 2 at a time, the old wood creaking under my feet like it was trying to whisper, are you sure? But I didn't stop. I couldn't. If I stopped, she'd follow. Her tears, her voice, the gravity of her begging. And I knew if I let her pull me back down those steps, I'd lose whatever piece of myself I'd managed to save tonight. The bedroom was exactly as we'd left it. The covers kicked aside from when she'd half fallen asleep before the party. My dress shirt draped over the back of the chair. The tiny gift box she'd given me still sitting on my nightstand like an apology wrapped in shiny paper. I grabbed my old duffel from the closet, the same one I used to haul around on camping trips with Chris before the world got complicated. Before forever turned into a word we threw around like rice on our wedding day. Pretty, weightless, meaningless. I didn't pack carefully. Just enough clothes to get through a week, maybe two. A pair of jeans, shirts, socks, toothbrush, the photo frame on my dresser, me and my dad on my college graduation day. I slid that in too. Something that still felt real. Something that hadn't lied to me for half a decade. Downstairs, I could hear her moving around. The low, muffled sound of her crying into the couch cushions. Maybe she was on the phone with him now, telling him the party was over, that I'd found out, that her two worlds had finally smashed into each other like a head-on collision nobody walks away from clean. I opened my nightstand drawer out of habit. There was the watch she gave me on our second anniversary. I touched it, turned it over in my palm. The back still engraved with "Forever yours, Elle." I set it back down. Let's stay here with her. It belonged to a promise that died before it ever had a chance to live. The bag felt too light for everything I was carrying. The memories, the questions I'd never get answers to, the hollow ache that no apology could touch. But it was all I needed. I stood at the bedroom door for a second, hand on the knob. Took one last look at the bed where I dreamed my safest dreams. The closet that still smelled like her perfume. The wall where we'd argued about paint colors for hours that first year and ended up laughing about it under the covers. I wanted to hate it all, but all I felt was tired. So tired. I clicked the light off, stepped out, and pulled the door shut behind me. I padded down the stairs, duffel slung over my shoulder, footsteps soft so they wouldn't echo too loud in the house I was leaving behind. Funny how even when you're done, you move like you're trying not to wake up the ghosts. Laura was sitting on the bottom step, hugging her knees, eyes red and swollen. She looked up when she heard me, like she'd half hoped I'd come back down and drop the bag, take it all back, crawl into the lie with her for one more night. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust my mouth to hold the truth steady if I let it open. She reached for me again, fingertips brushing my sleeve. "Please, Mark. Please. Don't go. We can fix this. I swear to you." I stepped back so her hand missed me. The touch didn't land, and neither did the lie. "Goodbye, Laura." It was the only thing I could give her. 2 words that sounded too calm for the storm I fell behind my ribs. Her face crumpled, tears breaking free again. She whispered my name like it was a prayer she didn't believe in anymore. I turned away from her, stepped past the balloons still clinging to the banister, the banner she'd taped over the doorway. "Happy birthday, Mark." Like a sick joke now. The party for a man who'd finally woken up. At the door I paused, my keys on the hook. I took them, feeling the cold metal bite my palm. One last look at the living room. The place we planned a family that never came. The couch where she'd laughed at my dumb jokes while someone else owned her secrets. Outside, the night was waiting, raw, honest, freezing. I wanted to slap me clean. I wanted it to hurt more than her lies, so I'd know I was still alive. I opened the door. Cold air rushed in, grabbed my face, my lungs, my bones. It felt good, brutal, true. Behind me, I heard her whisper, "Mark, please." One last time. A ghost echo. I stepped over the threshold and didn't look back. The door shut with a soft click that sounded louder than any slam. Outside, my breath came out in little clouds. The street was empty. Just me and my bag, the dark sky overhead. No directions. No plan. Just gone. Sometimes freedom doesn't feel like fireworks. Sometimes it feels like cold concrete under your shoes and silence that doesn't lie to you. The night swallowed me whole. The second I stepped off the porch. The air smelled like damp earth and car exhaust, and the bitter promise of dawn just a few hours away. I walked to my car parked at the curb. The same old black sedan I'd driven on our first date. The same car she'd leaned across to kiss me in when we were too young and stupid to know forever could rot like fruit left out in the sun. I tossed the bag in the back seat and sat behind the wheel for a long minute. Keys cold in my palm. Engine off. My reflection in the dark window looked like someone I didn't know. Eyes ringed red. jaw clenched so tight I could feel my teeth ache. 1,000 memories knocked at the door in my head. Her laugh in the passenger seat, her sleepy voice on road trips, singing along to songs she only half knew the words to, her hand resting on my thigh at red lights like we were kids who couldn't wait till we got home. I slammed my fist once on the steering wheel, not hard enough to break it, just enough to feel something real in my bones. I didn't know where to go. My parents lived 3 hours north, but the thought of knocking on their door at 3 a.m. with my life in a duffel bag made my skin crawl. Chris was out of the question. I didn't want his pity or his couch. Not tonight. Not when the walls in my head were still echoing with "I miss you. Come home soon." So I just started the car. Let the engine grumble awake, headlights slicing through the quiet street. I pulled away slow, careful, like if I peeled out too fast, I'd leave something behind I might need later. House after house rolled past my window. Neat lawns, porch lights flickering, families inside sleeping safe under roofs that weren't caving in. I wondered how many of them were lies, too. How many husbands lay awake wondering why the bed felt so cold. How many wives whispered promises they'd already broken. I gripped the wheel tighter. The night hummed under the tires. No plan, no address. Just a road that promised distance. Enough to quiet her voice in my head, if only for tonight. Somewhere along the way, I'd pull over. Maybe a motel by the highway. Maybe the side of the road with the engine ticking warm while I closed my eyes and pretended I was anyone but the man who'd blown out 37 candles and found the ashes still stuck to his tongue. I drove until the sky turned from black to bruised purple, the kind of early morning that makes everything look softer than it really is. Headlights from passing trucks washed over my windshield like brief, cold blessings. Reminders I wasn't the only soul awake with nowhere to go. About 40 miles out, I found a motel. One of those squat, nameless places that smells like stale cigarettes and regrets too tired to hide. The neon sign sputtered like it couldn't decide if vacancy was a promise or a warning. I killed the engine and sat there for a minute, my hand still clutching the wheel like maybe if I let go, I'd vanish too. The duffel sat in the back seat, zipper half open, my old life crammed inside like it could all fit in there. 7 years, a wedding band, the echo of a lie that stretched longer than our vows ever did. I thought about driving back, knocking on the door just to see if she'd answer with his name on her lips. Maybe she'd be on the phone with him again, whispering I'm sorry like she used to whisper I love you. But no, some ghosts are better left inside the house you burned behind you. I dragged myself out of the car. The gravel bit through the soles of my shoes as I crossed the lot to the lobby. The old man behind the counter didn't look up from his radio, just slid a key across the sticky counter when I dropped a credit card next to his coffee cup. Room 12 smelled like mildew and the last dozen men who'd run from something they couldn't face in daylight. I tossed my bag on the sagging mattress, sat at the edge, elbows on my knees. The clock on the nightstand blinked 4:07 a.m. like it was mocking me for pretending sleep was even an option. I buried my face in my hands, tried to scrub her out of my eyelids. Her laugh, her touch, the way she called me baby with his name already tucked behind her teeth. Somewhere in the room, a pipe rattled. The heater wheezed. I'd wanted quiet, and now I had it. Heavy and endless, pressing against my skull until all I could hear was my own heartbeat keeping score of what I'd lost. The cheap curtains couldn't hold back dawn for long. Thin yellow light bled through the dusty fabric, cutting across the cracked wallpaper and the dented dresser. I sat there in the dim room, staring at the carpet, tracing the pattern with my eyes like it might spell out an answer if I looked long enough. I thought about our first fight, back when we were still young enough to think arguments were tests we could pass. It was over something stupid, a forgotten birthday dinner with her parents. She cried then too, said I'm sorry 100 times, curled up in my lap until the anger slipped away and all I could feel was her heartbeat against mine. I thought about the anniversary we spent in that tiny cabin by the lake, how she'd laughed when I nearly tipped the canoe, how we'd stayed up all night under cheap blankets, pretending the real world couldn't reach us there, how I believed every word she said about forever, like I didn't know forever had fine print she kept tucked in someone else's pocket. I leaned back against the headboard, my eyes burning from too many sleepless hours and too many pictures in my head that didn't match the truth I'd dragged out into the light. My phone buzzed from the nightstand. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Laura. Maybe it was another please. Another I'm sorry. Another promise that meant nothing, stuffed into a text message she'd probably rewrite 3 times before hitting send. I let it buzz itself quiet. I couldn't read her words anymore. They all looked the same now, flat and empty, like echoes bouncing off walls that would never hold us up again. I thought about calling Chris, just to hear a voice that wasn't soaked in lies. But what would I say? Hey man, she tore my life in half, but happy birthday to me? I pictured his voice, careful and quiet, pity dripping off every syllable. I wasn't ready for that yet, so I just sat there. The heater rattled like an old man's cough. A dog barked somewhere in the lot. The world was waking up outside while I felt like I'd been buried under a truth too big to crawl out from under. I looked at the duffel bag at my feet, the zipper wide open, my clothes spilling out like guts. I could pack it all back in, drive home, pretend I hadn't seen her phone screen glowing like a flare in the dark. Pretend forever still meant something. But I knew I wouldn't. Some lies are too heavy to carry back through your own front door. The phone buzzed again, stubborn in its tiny, glowing insistence. I let it rattle across the nightstand until it tipped over and hit the carpet with a soft thud, still vibrating, like it could crawl back up and beg me to listen. I didn't. I leaned my head back against the peeling headboard and stared at the ceiling. Water stains shaped like countries I'd never visit. Cracks that looked like roads leading nowhere. For a moment, I let myself picture it, driving back, walking through that front door. She'd be waiting, hair pulled back, sleeves too long over her hands like when she was trying to look small and sorry. She'd say it again, I love you. I didn't mean it. It's over. I could almost feel myself saying okay, letting her cry into my shirt while I lied to myself just as hard as she'd lied to me. But the vision fizzled as fast as it came. Because I knew her now, the version of her she'd hidden under smiles, and I'm just tired and work's been crazy. I knew the softness in her voice was a door she'd left open for him too. I stood up too fast, knees cracking like old floorboards. The room felt too small all of a sudden. I needed air, needed sky above my head that didn't smell like mildew and betrayal. I grabbed my keys, shoved the phone deep into my bag so I wouldn't hear it hum again. Didn't bother changing clothes, just the same jeans, the same stale t-shirt that still smelled like last night's birthday cake, and the ghost of a kiss that had meant nothing. The hallway outside the room was cold and smelled like stale coffee and bleach. I walked past a cracked vending machine humming to itself, past a young couple pressed up against a wall whispering promises they'd probably break before checkout. Outside, dawn was bleeding into day, a low sun stretching its pale fingers over the parking lot, painting gold over the rusted cars and broken fences. I leaned against the hood of my car, breath puffing out like smoke. For the first time in hours, I let myself feel it all, the betrayal, the loneliness, the raw, ugly truth that maybe I'd known all along and just didn't want to see. It hurt, but under that hurt, buried deep like a coal waiting for a spark, was something else. Anger maybe, or hope, or just the simple fact that I was still here, still standing, still breathing. I didn't know where I'd go next, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't go back. I stayed there, leaning against the hood of my car while the sun dragged itself over the edge of the highway. For a second, I thought maybe I'd just keep standing there until the day got too heavy to hold. Maybe I'd just disappear into the morning traffic, another stranger with nowhere to be. But the phone in my bag wouldn't stop. It buzzed again, not Laura this time. I knew it before I pulled it out. Chris, my best friend since we were 15 and stupid enough to think nothing could break us. I stared at his name for a few seconds, the screen glowing bright in my palm. I didn't want pity. Didn't want the awkward silence that always comes when your life falls apart and your friend doesn't know how to glue it back together for you. But I answered anyway, because if I didn't talk, I'd drown in my own head. Mark. His voice was groggy, still waking up. I pictured him sitting up in bed, rubbing sleep from his eyes, worried before he even knew why. Hey, I said. The words scraped out of my throat like it didn't want to be there. Dude, it's 6 in the morning. Everything okay? I almost laughed at that. Okay. I could hear Laura's voice echoing it's okay. It's nothing. You're overthinking it. Lies that had lived in my house for too long. No, I said, blunt as a brick. Everything's not okay. He was quiet for a second. I heard him shift, the creak of his mattress. Then his voice, softer now. What happened? I could have said 100 ways. She cheated. She lied. I left. But the words caught behind my teeth like glass. So I let them spill slow. Laura's been cheating. 5 years. Found out last night. On my birthday. A long silence on the other end. I pictured him running a hand through his hair, staring at the ceiling, trying to stitch together something to say that wouldn't sound useless. Mark, man, He didn't finish. There's no I'm sorry big enough for betrayal that deep. He knew it. I knew it. Where are you? He asked instead. His voice didn't sound sleepy anymore. Just sharp. Present. Solid. Some hotel off the highway. Didn't feel like staying to watch her explain it away. Good, he said. No hesitation. No soft pity. Just good. Like he knew staying would have killed something in me that deserved to live. You want me to come get you? He asked. I'll drive right now. Just say the word. I looked at the road stretching past the lot. Wide open, honest. For the first time, I didn't feel alone standing there. Not yet, I said. I just needed to hear someone say I'm not crazy. You're not crazy, he said. No pity. Just truth. You're the only sane one in the middle of that mess. I felt my throat tighten. Relief, grief, maybe both fighting for space. Thanks, I said, my voice raw. Anytime, Ann, he said. Call me when you're ready. I'm here, no matter what. I stood there long after Chris hung up, the phone warm in my hand like a reminder that not every connection burns you from the inside out. The wind cut across the lot, sharp enough to make my eyes sting, or maybe that was just the part of me that hadn't stopped wanting to break down since the candles went out. The motel sign flickered behind me, vacancy buzzing like a broken promise. I could hear the highway hum, trucks rolling past carrying strangers to places I couldn't even picture right now. Funny how the world keeps moving when yours has been kicked out from under you. I climbed back into the car, shut the door. The stale air inside smelled like me. Sweat, panic, old coffee in the cup holder from yesterday. The duffel bag lay slumped on the passenger seat, like it was waiting for instructions I didn't have. I thumbed through my contacts. Dad, too early. Too much history to untangle before sunrise. My sister, she'd show up on my doorstep with half the town's anger packed in her small frame, ready to slash Laura's tires herself. I didn't want any more rage right now. Chris had given me the only thing I needed, proof I wasn't losing my mind. I leaned my head against the steering wheel, breathed in the quiet hum of the engine idling. I could feel it under my palms, steady, predictable, alive in a way my marriage hadn't been in years. 5 years. The number kept echoing in my skull. 5 years of buying her lies like candy, sweet at first, rotten at the core. 5 years of anniversaries, family barbecues, fake smiles and holiday photos. 5 years of brushing her hair off her neck while she texted him good night from the bathroom floor. The anger flickered again, hot and sudden, but it didn't have anywhere to go. So I let it sit in my chest like a coal I'd keep alive until I figured out what to do with it. I pulled out of the lot slow, the neon sign shrinking in my rear view until it disappeared behind a bend in the road. No destination, just the road, the open sky, and the dull thud of my heart reminding me I wasn't done yet. I didn't know where I'd land. Maybe Chris's place. Maybe some cheap apartment with nothing on the walls except the truth I could finally stand to look at. Maybe somewhere quiet where her voice couldn't find me anymore. I rolled the window down, let the wind slap me awake as the sun finally broke free from the horizon. New light on old wounds. It hurt, but for the first time, it felt like the hurt belonged to me alone. The highway opened up in front of me like a blank page, mile after mile of cracked asphalt that didn't care who I was or what I'd left behind. The car hummed steady under my hands, the only sound besides my heartbeat pounding against the walls of my ribs like it was reminding me you're still here. You're still here. I drove without looking at the signs for a while. Gas stations, diners, churches with sun-faded billboards promising hope inside. Like hope was something you could pick up off a shelf and pay for at the register. After an hour or so, I pulled off an empty rest stop, killed the engine. The sudden quiet was a punch to the gut. No music, no phone buzzing, just me and the tired groan of trucks rolling by in the distance. I stepped out, stretched my legs, felt the stiffness in my back from a night spent hunched over memories I didn't want anymore. Inside the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, stared at my reflection in the chipped mirror. I looked older than yesterday, like betrayal had shaved a few years off my future and tacked them right under my eyes. I wanted to call her, not to forgive her, God no, but just to ask why. Why hold my face in your hands at night while your heart was somewhere else? Why say forever if you only meant until I get bored? But I didn't pick up the phone. The answers wouldn't change the facts. The truth was heavy enough on its own. It didn't need her excuses to drag it deeper into my bones. Back in the car, I pulled out my wallet, flipped through receipts, loyalty cards, photos tucked behind old IDs. One of us at the beach, her hair whipped across her face, laughing so hard she'd squinted her eyes shut. I stared at it for a second, then tore it down the middle. One half fluttered to the floor mat. The other I stuffed in a glove box. Maybe I'd burn it later. Maybe I wouldn't. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Chris's name. Texted, "Might come crash at yours for a bit. Need to clear my head." His reply came quick. "Doors open. Anytime. No questions. No pity. Just a simple truth I could actually trust." I started the car again, pulled out of the rest stop. The horizon ahead didn't promise anything, but didn't lie to me either. That was enough for now. By the time I hit the city limits, the sun was fully up, bright enough to show every crack on the windshield I'd been ignoring for years. Funny how you stop seeing the damage when you live with it long enough. I took the turn toward Chris's neighborhood without overthinking it. Old, familiar streets. Rows of houses with peeling paint and tire gardens that somehow still managed to bloom every spring. He was waiting on the porch when I pulled up, barefoot, coffee mug in hand, hair sticking up like he hadn't slept since I called. When I stepped out of the car, he didn't say a word. Just opened his arms and hugged me tight. No awkward pats on the back. No forced "it'll be okay." Just the solid, simple truth of someone who'd stand in my corner, even when I'd lost every fight worth losing. Inside, he poured me coffee, strong enough to burn the bad taste of last night out of my throat. We sat there in silence at his tiny kitchen table while the world outside went about its business. Dogs barking, kids dragging backpacks down the sidewalk. The kind of normal that felt like a promise I might believe in again someday. I didn't tell him everything. Didn't need to. He knew enough. He didn't try to fix it. Didn't tell me to forgive her or fight for it or bury it. He just sat there with me, drinking coffee that went cold while the sun rose higher than it had any right to. At some point, he clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, "You'll be all right, man. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday." And for the first time since I blew out those candles, I actually believed it. When I finally closed my eyes on his couch that night, the ache in my chest was still there, raw, stubborn. But under it, something else breathed, small but steady. The truth. The one thing she couldn't take with her when I walked out that door. And maybe that was enough to start over. Not to fix everything, but to remind myself the next time I love someone, I won't forget to love myself first. Thank you for staying with me through this raw, heavy story. If you felt something real, if you saw yourself in any of these broken pieces, I hope you know you're not alone. Stay true to yourself. Don't stay where you're not loved honestly. If you want more stories like this, stories that don't lie, don't flinch, and dig into the messy truth, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and stick around. I'll be here, telling it like it is, one story at a time.